guys, welcome back to my channel. For those who are new here, my name is Hannah and this is my channel What I Read, which is about what I read. So it's been a while since I did a book video. My last video was about ordering books on Amazon, but today I have I have 3 books, all hits, no misses. They're incredibly interesting. At least I found them to be incredibly interesting, and I will be talking about them today. I have 2 of them here. I can't find my copy of the third one, so I'll just insert a picture when I get to that portion of the video, so don't worry. And it's a popular book, you can pick it up probably anywhere. It's a classic, so it's not life or death that I don't have a copy here with me. I will start. Where will I start with? I have 2 of them here. As usual, my light is always way too bright. I have 2 copies here. You'll see them better later, so sorry about the reflection. I'll start with this one by Madelline Miller. It's called The Song of Achilles. The cover looks like, can you see this? Yeah, the cover looks like that. And I picked this up because I saw it on, like, a very brief summary of it on, his name is Jack Edwards' channel. I really enjoy listening to his book reviews, and he said this book broke his heart. So obviously, and it was about Greek mythology, it was based on Greek mythology, so obviously I had to go out and get it, try and get it anyway here. Not always lucky enough to find copies of books that I hear about online, but I found this. I ordered it from Prestige Bookshop, and I would say this is a retelling of the story of Achilles, and it's just a really easy read. I'm starting to smile because when I picked this up, I was in a book rut, which, if you're a reader, you just get to this point where you've read so much that you just don't feel like reading anymore, and you're kind of in a slump. But I picked this up when I was in a slump. I started it and then I just kept it aside for a long while. Then I picked it up again and I finished it in a day, which goes to show you it's an easy read. So it's about Greece in the age of heroes. It focuses on the story of a guy called, guys, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, so just forgive me. I think his name is Patroclus. So the book starts out with his relationship with his father and what his family dynamics, and how his dad at a very young age forces him to go and like declare his intent of marriage in a different kingdom with a different should I say famous king. He has to go and declare his his intentions, and he's super young, like he's a very awkward young prince. So he gets there and there are all these heroes and princes and kings who also come to declare their intent. So that I feel like that portion of the story largely is just to show us what happens, like who ends up marrying the lady and how everyone in that hall pledges allegiance to protect the lady if anything ever happens to her, like they will avenge her, sort of thing. I think that's the prelude for the rest of the book, and you come to see how they all got involved much later in a war. Patroclus ends up accidentally killing someone and disappointing his already very disappointed father, and he as a result he gets exiled for it. So when he gets exiled, he goes to, oh my gosh, I don't remember the name of this place. He's exiled, he's taken to a different place where the king is gracious to exiles. So the king turns out to be the father of Achilles, and that's where the story really begins. So Patroclus and Achilles both male, FYI. Well, yeah, it's basically a love story. I think that's why this bow is shaped in the form of a heart. So this whole thing is just one tragic love story. So they meet, and he sort of has a crush on him because how enchanting Achilles is. We later come to find out that Achilles is half god, half human, and we find out how that happened, which it's problematic, guys. It's problematic. But he's half god, half human, and he's this gorgeous, fluid, dynamic, those enigmatic personalities, the sort of person who just draws you to them just by existing. Is one of those. So but Patroclus falls in love with him, and his mother, who is the god, she's a sea nymph, is against the union. And then we see how Achilles, their father, their mother, that whole situation, and how Patroclus sort of fits into that, and how much trouble that brings. Then so they stayed at his father's kingdom for a while, and then gets to a point where he has to go and train, and because there is this prophecy that he'll be the greatest warrior of his time, Achilles that is. So he leaves Patroclus and goes away to train, but Patroclus follows him because by this time he's madly in love. So he follows him to the place where they're being trained by this guy who is what are they called? This half man, half horse. Is it a centaur? Called Chiron, was training Achilles. So he really had nothing to train them on besides like medicine and such, because when Achilles is told to display what he knows, then Chiron is like, I can't teach you anything, you're already the best. So then he asks Patroclus if he knows that he has average skill. Patroclus is like, yeah. And then he asks him whether he wants to be trained to be a soldier regardless, and he says no, he really just is there for Achilles, like love of his life, and can't leave him, and yada yada. Doesn't say this, but you see how he got to where he got to. Then remember when we started out and they were all declaring their loyalty towards this lady who in the hall with the kings and the heroes and the princes and such? Well, somebody from now Troy decides they're going to kidnap said wife. Now her name is Helena. When she became the wife, she was now kidnapped by guys from Troy, and since the people in the hall had all pledged their allegiance to her and they would protect her and yada yada, the time had come for them to actually fulfill what they had said. So they gather together and start planning on how they're going to go to Troy and get Helena back. So somebody is sent from his father's kingdom to the mountains, which is where they are, to tell Achilles that there's a war and whatever, like they want him to be involved and stuff like that. But his mom intervenes. His mom, the sea nymph, intervenes, kidnaps him, and takes him far, far away. So Patroclus again finds out where he is, goes to his father, asks for money, and sets out to find him. Because again, love, love, love. So he finds him eventually in a different kingdom run by a king who's sort of a placeholder, to be honest. His character isn't anything to write home about. But he finds Achilles disguised as a lady. But there's a whole backstory there of how his mom forced him to get a wife there, and yikes, it's just so he finds him. Achilles is overjoyed to see him. He finds out why he was taken to this place and what his mom's intentions were, and etc etc etc. So while they're there, two heroes stroke kings show up and pretend that they don't know that Achilles is here. But through a series of very, very fortunate events, or rather just their plan, Achilles exposes himself and they tell him the real intentions that they had of coming there, which was to get him to fight the war for them. So, long story short, Achilles ends up in Troy with Patroclus because those two cannot be separated to save their lives, quite literally. So they end up in Troy fighting for a very, very long time. And the story of Troy, while they're in Troy fighting, is actually quite interesting. I enjoyed it. I just found the characters that were introduced during that time very interesting in their development, and it's wholesome relationships developed. It's a pity that it did not end that way, because there was one very arrogant king who just botched up the whole operation, and because Achilles was extremely proud as well, he let pride interfere, and as a result, everyone ended up dead for the most part, anyway. So yeah, it was very frustrating because as I was reading the book, I was like, gosh, if we could just stop for a bit and and just make a better decision, they wouldn't have died. Like no one, so many deaths would have been averted. But at the same time, you kind of understand that he's a half god, so his reputation is a big deal, and he can't go back on his word, and it's a lot. So Patroclus, this is like the worst spoiler of all time, but a lot of people die. Let me not say the particulars of who die, but a lot of people die. Yeah, and the book ends. It's a lot more interesting than I summarize. I just didn't want to give away the juicy bits. Please pick this book up. It is worth every coin. It is an easy read. I would read it again. I would recommended it to my sister. So I'm very happy I picked this up. It wasn't tear-jerking for me, guys. I did not shed tears. It was a heartbreaking ending, but I wasn't sobbing or anything. I was just like, I kind of saw this coming, but yikes, just make better decisions, kind of thing. So that's the first book, The Song of Achilles. I got it from Prestige, as I said. Loved it, enjoyed it. So the second one is actually an oldie, as you can tell from the cover. Oh man, I really need to find a way to make this reflection less. It's called The Book Thief. This is a very old copy, and I have read this book. This is actually my second time reading this book, and there's just so much to like. There's so much to talk about, guys. I always smile at books that I enjoyed for some bizarre reason. I feel like they can talk to me. So, it's called The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. It is honestly, it's amazing. It's told so well, and it's quite sad because it's set in Nazi Germany. And the narrator of this book is Death. Like Death introduces himself. And the girl's name, the main character, is called Lisa. Let me just confirm that, guys. Liesel. I think it's Liesel. I don't know how to pronounce it. The spelling is Liesel. She's a 9-year-old girl. Like I said, Death is a narrator. So we start with trying to remember the particulars because I've read so many books, all sort of meshing in my head, which is probably why I should do these videos a lot sooner. But oh, okay, I think I remember bits and pieces, so I'll try and just put them in here. So Liesel's mom ends up having to give her away because she can't afford, quite literally can't afford to keep her, I remember. So the book starts with them being on a train, and the mom, so it was her mom, and her brother traveling to go to a different location. looking for greener pastures. Then her brother dies on the train suddenly, and they have to get off a train to bury the body. And I think that's where the book thieving begins, because she steals a book from one of the grave diggers. So she's taken to a different location, Liesel. Honestly, guys, I'm so sorry I didn't check this pronunciation before. So they get to a new location, and she has foster parents who she doesn't really warm up to because it's a different location. She's very young, very impressionable, scared, traumatized by her brother's death. She keeps having nightmares about how he died, and so it takes a while for her foster parents to win her over. And then, of course, it takes a while for her to adjust to new life. New life isn't exactly comfortable. She has to work hard to make ends meet, while also being traumatized by nightmares about her brother's death. I think she makes a new friend called Rudy, who's obsessed with this baseball star, and is trying to get Liesel to kiss him. And then when her foster dad finds out that she can't read, oh goodness gracious, my pronouns are just, when he finds out that she can't read, he starts to teach her the alphabet, and so that she can read the book that she stole, basically. And then trying to remember more of it. I remember as the story goes on that the situation in the country is getting worse and worse. It's set in Germany, so the situation is escalating. War is escalating. There are food and work shortages. So she goes to work for, I think, the mayor of the town. And when she gets there, she walks into this gorgeous library, and she's like, my goodness, how beautiful is this? Look at the success. Back home they're struggling, and here are people who are living in the lap of luxury. So the mayor tells her she can read any book from the library, which she then starts to read. But at some point, the political situation gets really bad. Oh, there's something stuck in my eye. Political situation gets really bad, and they have to let her go, and she is furious because they're struggling back home, and these people are doing super, they're doing really well. So she starts to steal books from their library. I think she was doing the laundry for them. Yeah, I think she was doing the laundry for them. Then I think it's the mayor who finds out that she was stealing. So one of the times that she goes back to steal, she finds Thesaurus, and she finds 2 books. I don't remember exactly what books they are, but she finds 2 books and a note from the mayor saying, I know that you're stealing from me, but here are books anyway. So there's also some story of the foster parents and how the dad went to war with a character who's introduced called Max. So he and Max's father were in the same war together. So when Max's father died, he promised that he would help Max's mother whenever she was in trouble. So Max was in trouble because I think he was Jewish, and during that time, where Jews are being killed, paraded on the streets, and being taken away to concentration camps. So he hid Max. The foster parents hid Max in their basement and took care of him as best as they could, which was extremely hard because he was sick. At the time he was in a coma, and they didn't know. They started discussing what they would do with the body if he died, but luckily he recovered. And then there was an incident where German soldiers came to their home and straight to their basement to see whether it could be used as a bomb shelter during the time of war, but luckily they didn't see Max. Yeah, but soon after that, bombing started and they had to hide in the basement. And while they were in the basement, Lizelle would read to them until the bombing stopped. It's quite a, it's quite a, it's quite a lot. So the war intensifies. Nazi soldiers begin parading the Jewish prisoners through town on their way to the concentration camps. You see like acts of kindness when Hans sees a struggling man being marched off. Oh my heart feels. When Hans, who is the foster dad, sees a man struggling like to walk to the concentration camps because he was so hungry, he gives him a piece of bread. So when of course the soldiers see that, they intervene and they whip them both. Then Hans realizes he has drawn attention to himself, which remember is bad because Max is in the basement. So Max has to leave, and this book, man, you guys, it's a lot. It's just I don't know why I paused there so dramatically. I don't know. Sometimes I really get like invested, like all the way invested in stories. So oh yeah, I remember at some point Max wrote her a book on he had, I think, some leaflets or something, so he wrote Lizelle a book on those leaflets while he was staying in that basement. But now since Hans had drawn attention to himself, he had to go away. The promise of reuniting in the future when things were a bit more sane. Guys, I don't know. This is just it's a lot. I forgot just how into it I got because the first time I read it, I really loved it. I still felt all the same emotions, and it's been probably a couple of years since I picked it again because I was procrastinating reading a different book. But I'm glad I did because it's written from the perspective of Germans. And I don't know about you, but most books I've read are written in the perspective of the British. So it was nice to see the other side. So story isn't over. When Max goes away, Rudy, who is her friend that she made, gives Lizelle the book that Max wrote for her, which is about their friendship and how they would be reunited someday, which is incredibly sweet. And then Hans, who is the foster dad, is called Essen to work there, but when he gets there, people don't like him. I think because they think he's a Jewish sympathizer. So he is moved, but this movement from like where he initially was to a different place ends up saving his life because there's an air raid where he's working, and the person who moved him, the guy who didn't like him, ends up dying because he replaced him where he was, and he just ends up, I think, with a few broken bones. And then, if I remember correctly, Lizelle, like the Nazis are still parading Jews to concentration camps, and Lizelle sees that Max is one of the Jews that's being taken to the concentration camp. She sees him being paraded and tells her friend Rudy that actually we used to have this guy in our basement taking care of him. He's a friend of mine, and she'd never actually told anyone of this before. So then we get to the bit that just broke my heart because there is another air raid, and Hans's wife, Rudy, and the neighbors are killed in that air raid, and Lizelle is the only one who survives. There's a book that the mayor's wife had given her to write her stories, and while she's being pulled out of the rubble, she she leaves behind the book, and the title of the book is The Book Thief. And while she's being pulled out of the rubble, she's rescued, obviously, and the mayor and the mayor's wife, they take her in and they take care of her, and she grows up with them. And then Max, remember him, he leaves the concentration camp and they reunite, which honestly, my heart, I was just like, I was even talking about it just makes me, gosh, this book was actually much more sad than I thought, now that I'm talking about it. So they reunite, and they're friends. And then she grows up and she moves to Australia. She gets married, has a family, and grows to the ripe old age of old and eventually dies, where now death gives her the book. Like that's how it ends, that death gives her the book that she wrote. And that is a summary of, honestly, I'll probably pick this up in a few years again. I love this book. It gets me every single time. It's so well written. The narration style is phenomenal. It's a really good book, guys. And I'm so happy we have this in our library. And the last one is a classic. Pride and Prejudice. This is my favorite classic of all times. Who doesn't know about Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy? And the classic, like, snobbish guy doesn't see the intelligence and beauty of a plain looking girl and eventually falls madly in love with her. And obstinate girl prejudges man and realizes that he's actually probably her best match. I love Pride and Prejudice. I've read it, I think, a record of 5 or 6 times, and each time I just can't get over how witty Elizabeth is. I feel like I can relate to her in so many ways. Mr. Darcy is the classic brooding, intelligent, wounded man, So if you're into that kind of I would say love story, honestly, pick it up and read it again and again. I love it. I'll insert a picture of it somewhere here. And I think I will be reading it probably in December as well. I read that book so often, and it's one of my favorite Jane Austen novels. And with that, I come to the end of my video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you pick up these books. Honestly, they are all hits, no misses. They are so interesting. They're different genres, but they're engaging. Like, you will be gripped from the start to the end. And thank me later. Just make sure you pick this up and add them to your to-be read pile. And yeah, that's all, folks. Thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this book summaries, please subscribe down below, comment in the comment section, and let me know what you think. If you've read these books before, please let me know what you thought. And yeah, join me next time for more book summaries. Bye bye.